Aloha, my name is Shane Morita, and I'm chair of the board for the American Cancer Society. It's estimated that nearly 2 million patients in the US will be diagnosed with cancer, and more than 500,000 will die of it. Tonight, you'll have the opportunity to learn about the Calrence T.C Ching Hope Lodge and hear stories from doctors and patients who have benefited from this amazing facility. Like many of you, my life was impacted by cancer. In 2004, it honestly was turned upside down. My dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I knew immediately that I had to fly back to Hilo to be with him and my mom. He eventually required specialty care in Honolulu. My mom stayed at his bedside for 31 days. Although he didn't survive his illness, I marveled at his bravery and witnessed the loyalty of my mom. As a surgical oncologist, I take care of cancer patients every day. However, like many of you, the fight against cancer is personal to me. I watched my dad in Hilo bravely battle this horrible disease and witness the resiliency of my mom. I see patients face immense uncertainty when dealing with cancer. Facilities such as Hope Lodge help reduce the burden on families, providing a free place for neighbor island patients to stay with their caregiver while receiving treatment on Oahu. That's why it's important that we continue to support this valuable resource. We're so grateful for all of the kindness and generosity from our community partners. Mahalo and God bless.
Join us, the American Cancer Society Hawaii chapter, for our 9th annual fundraiser to benefit the Calrence T.C Ching Hope Lodge, Hawaii. The theme this year is Midnight in Waikiki, is set to take place in person on Saturday, May 7th from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Sheraton Waikiki Ballroom. The gala will celebrate the 5th anniversary of the opening of the Hope Lodge Hawaii on Oahu, the only Hope Lodge in the Western United States, which also offers free temporary housing to cancer patients and their caregivers traveling 40 or more miles to receive treatment. It is a home away from home. Since opening in late 2016, Hope Lodge Hawaii has served almost 1,000 unique cancer patients from all the Hawaiian Islands, American Samoa, and other Pacific Islands. All proceeds from this gala will benefit Hope Lodge Honolulu day-to-day operations. For more information on the event, visit hopegalahonolulu.org.
So I live in Lanai. About 5-6 months ago, I started, for coughing, also, for heart, for swallowing and eating. And then everybody saying, she get the COVID. No. And so I went to the doctor in Maui because, it's hard to fly over to Honolulu. So, and then I see the doctor, he checked for my throat. So he didn't give me a medication, but see what's going on. And then for actually months later, starting worse, starting pain. And then I requested for oncology for checking my throat. And then they just finally they took an X-ray. Actually, the first doctor took the X-ray, but the second doctor they just see for like camera inside and there, saying, okay, you have some tumor. So, but I don't know that's for the cancer or not. It have to be sent it to the lab. And then for about 4 or 5 days later, the doctor say I'm cancer. The treatment is Oahu, but I don't have any relative. So what should I do? So I cannot pay for rent, for. Then I talked to for hospital, so they recommended okay, we can find out Hope Lodge in American Cancer Society. The first time I came over here, I was so surprised. Nice location and good facility. As you see, for like kitchen and all in the refrigerator and the parking lot, and plus for the staff is so nice. I'm so relieved.
I guess for me, when you're a son and you hear that your dad has cancer, it's one of the most difficult things to hear. I was born and raised on the island of Maui, grew up there. I left when I was 18 to go to college. Probably didn't come back as often as I wished because my parents left for a period and then my dad moved back. But essentially, the longest time I would come back to Hawaii was maybe 1 month, if not like 2-3 weeks at a time, just because the travel was so long. And being a student or then working, it's just hard to take a long time to come back here. And so it's wonderful to have that sort of a space that feels like home. Because at the end of the day, when you're going through cancer and when you're going through battling cancer, you need to have a space that feels like home, and Hope Lodge is that. This facility it's absolutely impeccable in terms of its hygiene, in terms of its ambiance, but more so the fact that there's a space where if you're living in Lanai, if you're living on Maui, if you're living on Kauai or a different island, and you don't have the financial means to be able to rent an apartment for 3 months or to get a hotel for 3 months, it's a place where you can feel at home and not have to worry about how are you going to pay for not only all of the cancer treatments, but how are you going to pay for an apartment? And so in that regard, it's so wonderful to have a space such as Hope Lodge that kind of takes care of that burden off your shoulders, and you can kind of just focus on healing. Yes. And so the wonderful thing is you don't necessarily have to worry about all of the kind of logistics of, having laundry and things to eat, because you have a kitchen facility that's impeccably clean and well maintained. You have laundry facilities, you have parking spaces, ample parking spaces. You have, a supportive staff who actually also really understands flexibility as well. Absolutely,
very flexible.
Yeah. But
and then nice and clean, and then not worry about for crime. So actually, for this place, middle of downtown, is a very convenient, for the hospital. So for I don't know, it's there, but for only less than 10-15 minutes drive. So that's for good for me. I mean, for probably not all patient, and very helpful.
And so this sense of community is so important in this healing process, because if that wasn't there, you'd really feel like you're going through it alone. And of course, the staff really also have experienced many patients that have come through the space, but also have their own personal stories. And so they're extremely knowledgeable in what you're going through. And in that way, you really don't feel like you're alone. Yeah, to all of the doctors, to all of the staff, to the nurses, to everybody, mahalo so much. It's a really tough time, like for anyone who's battling cancer, it's extremely challenging, and especially for a son or a daughter or a spouse, to see the person that you love going through this. It's heartbreaking, but to know that you can be surrounded by a community that supports you, it's all you can ask for.
Without Hope Lodge, I cannot do this.
So the words Hope Lodge, both words are very important to patients and families who are going through treatment for cancer. When my wife was diagnosed with cancer 6 years ago here on Oahu, we were fortunate enough that we had adequate insurance. We lived on Oahu, and we could get all the care we needed right here. But for folks on the neighbor islands, those facilities, and for folks who aren't fortunate enough to have enough resources, Hope Lodge means hope. It's a place to come and stay while you're undergoing chemotherapy and other treatment at Queens and other hospitals here on Oahu. And this magnificent facility, which is one of the few in the country, is a treasure here in Hawaii that very few people know about. One of the ways that I've been able to help in a very small way is with the University of Hawaii basketball team and head coach Aran Ganat, who is on a national coaches committee for Coaches Against Cancer. And every year, Coach Gannat runs an event where we raise thousands of dollars dedicated solely to the Hope Lodge. So there are so many ways that each of us can help contribute to the success of Hope Lodge. In-kind donations, food, linens, anything that you would expect at a fine hotel, or volunteer some of your time. You will be so greatly rewarded by seeing what happens here at the Hope Lodge and interacting with the patients and their families. Almost all of us have been touched by cancer in one way or another. Hope Lodge is here for all of us, so please help.
My name is Marieta and I am a cancer patient. I was diagnosed with a breast cancer back in September 2016. So we flew to Oahu with my husband to see Dr. Ma. And when Dr. Ma checked on me, she recommended that I needed to remove that lump underneath my breast. So my procedure was in September 2016. My husband and I fly to Oahu every 6 months for a mammogram. And for the past 5 years, it's been good. But due to COVID, we couldn't fly here on Oahu for 1.5 years. And when we came here in 2021 of June, they saw a spot, another spot that grew on my right breast. So, of course, thinking that I thought it's already gone, I was devastated. And my doctor is so good, they're so good. He says, you need to get it taken out right away. And the diagnosis is an active cancer. And Dr. Ma advised me that I need to have a mastectomy. And knowing this mastectomy, I said, oh no, I mean, it's gonna be so hard and everything. And so I had the surgery on February 23rd. I stayed at the Queen's Hospital for 5 days. All the staff there, at the surgery room to the oncology, the staff was just so magnificent to me. So when we were looking for a place to stay here after my surgery, my husband is looking around a condo here in town.
We wanted to look at vacation rentals or an apartment. And when we saw the prices on those, when we started tacking that onto the medical expenses, it was pretty breathtaking. And when we consulted with Dr. Nip, he mentioned that the Hope Lodge, was run by the American Cancer Society, offered a place for cancer patients, people going through treatment, chemo, radiation, recovery, surgery and recovery. They offered free lodging with really nice, accommodations, private rooms, and at no cost to the patients.
So we came and I was just like blown away. I was like, whoa. I said, is this a Hope Lodge? It's very clean, meticulously clean. The common area is so big for patients to have their meals there. The staff are just so amazing. They come and see you when you go to the common area, ask you if you need help. I really, really highly recommend to everyone that has a breast cancer to stay here at the Hope Lodge.
In my previous career, I was a chef, and the first thing that struck my eye when we came to visit was the layout of the kitchen. I've worked on TV cooking shows and seen the kitchen setups and some of those and found them lacking compared to what we have here. And I said, this is the place. Then we looked at the room, and of course, the room is nicely set up. It's got all the furniture we would need. It's like your own place, but private and quiet when you need it, and a nice place to talk with others that are going through this same kinds of things or similar things, and just encourage each other, because that's something that really helps the healing process, I think, is just being able to relate to others going through this and give them encouragement and receive that in turn. So it's, I think this has been a godsend for us.
I just want to thank the donors and sponsors for sponsoring the Hope Lodge. For us cancer patients, I want you to know that I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And please continue to support Hope Lodge. So who knows, maybe some other patient will come and stay at the Hope Lodge. Thank you.
Yeah, it really is a marvelous facility, and you know that it takes a lot of money to build such a beautiful place, well constructed, well laid out, everything designed with the comfort of the patients and their caregivers in mind. And it takes a lot to maintain the staff, to do the upkeep and all those other things. So it is quite a large undertaking for Hope Lodge to maintain this facility and keep going on for the future. So I hope we'll all support that.
A facility like the Hope Lodge, gives patients and their families the security that they have a place to stay. That's one less, expenditure in this very expensive process of getting care. And I know it's pre-pandemic, it was a really great place where people could network and find, support amongst families and other patients going through similar experiences. And I know that all of my patients that have experienced the Hope Lodge support have been extremely grateful that such a place exists. And so I think from the standpoint of a specialist in oncology and hematology, we're extremely comforted by the fact that we have this option from a variety of different standpoints, from the cost scenario, from the convenience scenario, and from the safety scenario. I think there's so many different aspects to the Hope Lodge that proves invaluable in our patients and families. Again, I include that because they are part of this whole process. And it's really, for patients undergoing a disease like cancer or significant blood disease, having a core group of people helping them is super important. And Hope Lodge supports that effort for sure.
I remember this whole area as an empty lot. And then through a lot of hard work and lots of people pitching in, it's now a beautiful, gracious home for people coming from all over. Having cancer is a very lonely journey. It's so stressful. And we have a saying that in the greatest need, there's the greatest good. So what we find is the families help put together that journey of loneliness and fear and anxiety is a little more manageable when you have a lot of helping hands. Hope Lodge is the culmination of a dream to help people in our community. Many people do not have the resources to come back and forth from the neighbor islands and nowhere to stay. If they're fortunate, they have friends and family, but often it's really hard. And we find that this is a really good resource for people, for the community. And we get wonderful letters, people telling about how it meant to them, so much to them, be able to have a second family here. And I have one memorable person who had terrible cancer, so she was coming back and forth, and for her to be able to stay in Honolulu, get her treatment in Honolulu meant a lot, coming from Molokai. And they're nice people, solid, down to earth. And I remember seeing her husband leave one day and say, "Where are you going?" And he goes, "I have to sell a cow in order to pay for my expenses." And for them, that's a big deal. For them to be able to stay here at the Hope Lodge, this really helps out. It's free, the cost is totally covered, and transportation as well. So it's a nice service to be able to give back to our community. And American Cancer Society really believes in reaching out and helping people.
We came here to Hope Lodge because Uncle is on his sports stage. We just found this out about a month ago. So because we have one daughter that's a paramedic, and so she called here because we were recommended to come here by friends from the Queens Center, Cancer Center. So we took it upon like just now and said, hey, why not try it? So we came here. When we first looked up the brochure about the Hope Lodge, that was one of the names that came up, Calrence Ching. Then I asked one of the girls who was he? And so she brought up a brand new book, and so I read it. And I was so impressed with who Mr. Ching is, good people they are there. And he put it in a foundation. See, that's what kind of like what we work with a little bit, foundation people in our area. Like for instance, we had a lady that gave $1 million. So I had to convince her how good of a people we were. And she left it in a foundation and awarded it to 3 nonprofits. And it was for good things in our small community. So I was kind of familiar with what the foundation do. So reading Mr. Ching's story, it was very, very heartful. I cried. I was thankful that we were able to come here and be a part of the team. Just being in a place where it's secured, it's private, it's clean, it has a lot of love in it. Like I say, there's a lot of love in this place. And you can feel it as you first come in, meet the people, how they greet you. They make you so comfortable for a patient who has cancer. So that's what I am doing as my husband's caregiver. We're married 55 years, so it has to be something that's very, like I said, inspiring, coming here and taking care of him. And thank you all. Thank you, everybody who's been so good and kind to us. And I'm very comfortable here because, as you can see, the surrounding, the yard, the bamboo, the lauhala. So we take a walk here in this garden, walk around, talk to each other, and just keep telling us that we must still go on and survive and just be happy with our lives. So I think this has made our lives more happy. Uncle John's life has mostly been with the land, Malama Daaina. So we're actually taro growers from Maui, from Hana Kipuhulu. We've been growing taro for the last 25 years or so. So it's very inspiring to have young people come in our group, help us to clean the taro patch and stuff like that. We also have a way we decided to do something like Waihole Waikani, have a kitchen. One thing about Uncle John is he's very much to people. He's like a people's person. He likes to talk one-on-one. He likes to share his stories. We're very simple people, actually. We're from Hana, where it's not city-like, yeah? So Uncle John was, we noticed that he had a yellow skin in August. We didn't take it too heavy. Maybe he's just this, so we kind of prolonged it till October. And then in November, we just went to check up with his doctor, who is Dr. Kamaka from Maui. He's an internal medicine doctor. And when we went to him, he checked us out and we went home. And then the next day on a Monday, he said, John, get to the hospital right away, right now. So we went to the emergency. They checked it out and they put a stent in him to help to drain all that things that's inside of the stomach. So from that, talking story back and forth, we realized that Maui did not have a cancer center. They had one, but it was a very small thing. And I think you had to wait in the line. So we said, okay, we'll come Oahu. So we hooked up with Dr. Kamaka told us where we should go or where we should, although he did not say specifically where to go. It was up to us. So when Uncle John got more sick, we decided to go to Queens and follow up for his medical reasons. And from that, we found out through the doctors that Uncle John is stage 4 cancer. And for us, we went, whoa, when did this happen? How come it happens so fast? And to a wonderful man who's been so giving in the community, it was hard to believe that something like this could be so fast. And for me as a caregiver, I'm just taking it by month to month, day by day, and just hoping that his life will be prolonged, because his life and his heart, goodness of his heart is much, much needed in my community, in my whole community actually. He's been an inspiration, just like Mr. Ching, to lots of kids, to a lot of young people. And when thousands of them have come through us, just like here would be hundreds and thousands of people that would be coming through and be inspired by what they experience. And this is what we've done home. So coming here has been, like I say, a home away from home, meeting the good people, and yet being surrounded by the city. Everywhere you go, there's food here, food there. Everything is just at your touch. At home, we have to do all our own cooking. So cooking in Hope Lodge kitchen is just familiar for me. I thank you that we got to find this place. Like I say, it's giving us a lot of hope, giving us to overlook the obstacles that's in front of us, and thank the doctors that have been so caring. I mean, they go out of their way. They go out of their way to really look at you as a patient. How are you feeling, Uncle John? But he doesn't complain, so hard to really, you just know he's happy. So that's the main thing for me. He's happy, makes me happy, you know. A good wife will always be happy if the husband makes her happy.
I mean, I like what they're doing because it's very, I learn a lot. They're so kind, and the doctors and everybody in here. You know, everybody say good morning and all that, and that's all I need there. Something like that.
I'd like to thank the Hope Lodge and the people that are involved here. Hope gives you hope. It gives you love to hang on. When you have the hope, you have trusting and the love.
Thank you for tuning in tonight. For any of you out there who have cancer, please know that we're here for you. And always know that there is hope.
Mahalo.
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 Mahalo for supporting the American Cancer Society.